Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Wedding Drama and it's by user Crene1992. I fired a bridesmaid and now I feel awful. Here we go. One of my oldest friends and I have been drifting apart over the past 3 to 4 years. She's been a bit weird, to put it nicely. When my fiance and I got engaged, she texted me and started asking me about what was she wearing as a bridesmaid, etc. The thing is, I hadn't planned on asking her, but I tend to be too nice and a bit of a pushover, so I let her join the wedding party. Yes, I realized that was my initial mess up, and over the past year, she has become almost unbearable. She has stopped working. In fact, she refuses to work at all anymore. She has self-diagnosed herself with PTSD, allegedly from being tickled too much as a child, autism and narcolepsy, along with a slew of other things. The crazy thing is, she doesn't have any of these things. No doctor has confirmed it, and she's switched therapists a couple of times trying to find someone who would. She's been trying to get disability for these alleged ailments so that she never has to work again. In the meantime, she has been mooching off her friends and family. She gets people to buy her all sorts of frivolous things: books, lingerie, vape supplies, art supplies, a $500 treadmill, and the list goes on. I've made so many excuses for her because of our history together. I could probably ignore all that craziness if she hadn't been causing drama for my wedding too. The dresses I selected for the bridesmaids cost $30, not $130, $30. I understand that she doesn't have money due to being unemployed, but that's her choice. She's had 2 years to save for this dress. I've been gently reminding her to buy her dress over the past couple of months since our wedding is coming up soon, but she's never got money. Honestly, I feel like if she can get someone to buy her a $500 treadmill and other expensive things, she should be able to find a way to get a $30 dress. Not to mention, she owns her own house, lots of name brand clothes, electronics, and a new Mercedes. She keeps dropping hints to the rest of the wedding party, hoping somebody will pay for her. She's making everyone uncomfortable and angry, and on top of that, she's been messaging my maid of honor, who's planning my bachelorette party, and bossing her around, telling her what is and isn't allowed at the party, etc. It's not her party. So yesterday I finally had enough. I told her, as politely as I possibly could, that she was demoted. I tried to take most of the blame and I told her it was based on my own anxieties and the fact that I felt guilty about adding to her stress and financial burden. Suddenly, she could magically pay for everything and wanted to buy her dress. I told her I was sorry, but I'd made my decision and left it at that. She's been bombarding me with texts and calls ever since, guilt-tripping and gaslighting me relentlessly. My fiance, the rest of the wedding party, and my family all encouraged me and thought I'd made the right choice. If everyone agrees that it was the right thing to do, and I don't want to let her back in, but I feel terrible. As outside observers, what do you guys think? Well, OP, in my opinion, you made the right decision. She was ruining this whole moment for you. I mean, this is your whole wedding build-up. It's supposed to be a time for you to be happy and enjoy it with you and your fiance, of course, but she just wasn't letting you do that. Calling your maid of honor to boss her around about your bachelorette party, that's just too much. Come on. OP, you mentioned you both have been drifting apart for the past 3 to 4 years. Sometimes in life, people change to the point that you're not friends anymore. You just don't have anything in common or you don't agree in basic things. It is sad, but it doesn't sound like you guys are friends anymore. Or at the very least, that she's not very much your friend, OP. Anyways, OP, again, I think you made the right choice. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Scammer C says, you feel guilty because that's her superpower. It's how she gets people to pay for things for her. At the risk of coming off badly, I'd say she is mentally ill, but at a sociopathic level. You did the right thing, and as time goes on and the pressure comes off, you'll realize that you dodged a bullet, both for yourself and your bridal party. And I'm going to bet, as a person who is planning on being a professional mooch, she'll forgive you in time and you can happily rejoin her stable of soft touches. And OP responds, "My fiance told me, you didn't hurt her feelings, you hurt her ego, and I know he's right. It's just hard to deal with her guilt trip. One of my friends asked, do you want to look back at your wedding pictures and see her in them? Without hesitation, my answer was no. I've had girlfriends who don't even know her, they've just seen her Facebook ask, she's not coming to the bachelorette party, is she? She's making not only me but everyone miserable. At this point, I don't even know if I want to be forgiven." Spooky Kita 9 says, "I think you did the right thing. Your wedding party should be people who are most important in your life and who love and support you. This sounds like she just wanted in because of your history together, but not necessarily because of the reasons I listed. I'm going through something similar with a very long-term friend of mine as well. She sort of assumed herself in the maid of honor role, and when I asked my future sister-in-law instead, well, my friend hasn't spoken to me in about a month. In the end, you have to do what is best for you and what will make you feel best on your day." And OP responds, "Thanks. Honestly, after seeing the messages she's been sending me the last 24 hours, I'm not sure it's even about our history for her. She keeps saying, I've never been a bridesmaid. If she cared, she would have shown me that she cared about the wedding and our friendship. Lately, she ignores me unless she needs to talk about her money or health problems. And oh my god, that sounds awful. I'm so sorry you've been dealing with that. I've had my maid of honor picked out since I was about 16. If someone tried to assume her role, it would not have flown with me." Voiceless Lemon says, "This person is, by your own admission, trying to scam her way into disability benefits. She's manipulating others to buy her things. She was trying to manipulate you and your bridal party. Now that she's essentially been called out, she's suddenly eager to pay? Nah, doesn't calculate. She pushed her way into the wedding party, overplayed her hand, and is now panicking. Someone like this may be prone to causing a scene on your wedding day, or at the very least being obnoxious and taking away from the day. I would advise you to tell her in no uncertain terms that she's welcome as a guest, or not, but will not be a bridesmaid, and then stop responding. Your maid of honor should stop interacting with her as well. I hope you have an amazing wedding." Smiley face. And OP responds, "I tried to ease the blow by telling her that I'd still take pictures with her and that she was still welcomed at all events. But that wasn't good enough for her, and she just kept telling me how unfair I was being. Allegedly, one of her conditions makes it hard for her to leave the house without panicking. If that were true, then why would she want to stand up in front of nearly 100 people? Everything she says is BS. My maid of honor and I have both stopped responding. I don't know if she'll get the hint unless I pluck up the courage to say something harsh to her though. And thank you. I just hope all this blows over and we can all move on." Additional information from OP's comments. "I absolutely hate conflict, and I've wished so many times that I had told her no in the first place. But at the time she wasn't quite so bad and I wasn't fully ready to end our friendship. I've had people ask me for years why I'm friends with her. She and my fiance don't really like each other because on our first date he held my hand and kissed my cheek and she thought that was too fast and too pushy. Lol. Now after seeing how she's reacted, I'm completely over our friendship. I feel guilty, but I also feel annoyed. I see a therapist for anxiety and my therapist told me I need to give this bridesmaid tough love or she'll never give me peace. But how the heck do you tell someone that they've lost their mind? It's been 2 days and she's already accusing me of punishing her for being poor. Then she started harassing my maid of honor, asking for the link to buy the dress, demanding to know if she's been replaced, etc. When that didn't work, she started messaging my fiance too. Initially, I still wanted her as a guest, but the longer she drags this out, the more I don't want her at my wedding or in my life at all. Well, the community is basically backing OP that she made the right decision and that she should enjoy her wedding, and OP gave us some more context and apparently she's now ready to end this whole relationship. So now it's time to move on to the update to see how this story ends, but of course I gotta show you guys another one of my playlists because I know you're gonna enjoy all the stories in there. Anyways, let's move on to the update to this story. So I don't feel that guilty anymore, I'm mostly just angry. As I said in some comments, she started texting not only me but my maid of honor relentlessly for 2 days. Neither of us was rude. We sugarcoated literally everything because we didn't want to be mean. At one point we ignored her, but she just kept messaging. Finally, we both caved and responded. My maid of honor politely told me she didn't want to be caught up in all of this and backed me up 100%. She made all this 100% about her. She doesn't care about me at all, or the fact that this is my wedding. Her messages were hysterical ramblings about how she was heartbroken because she's never been a bridesmaid before. She begged for the link to the dress, which she can suddenly afford, along with every other thing, dinners, gas, etc., which she couldn't afford before. She accused me of punishing her for being poor. I tried to explain to her that not knowing if I could count on her was stressing me out, but she acted like my stress and anxiety meant nothing. Even though I'm angry, I feel like I still can't tell her every reason she's been fired. How can you say your mooching and scamming are making you unbearable? She's obviously got some mental health problems, and I didn't want to be the person to push her over the edge. The longer this continued though, the angrier she made me. She also started messaging my fiance on top of my maid of honor. It honestly made me really mad that she's made them more uncomfortable when it wasn't either their fight. I tried to tell her that it was my decision, not hers, but she didn't stop. She was literally making me out to be a terrible person, but honestly, I've been as nice as I possibly can. Like I said, how can you tell someone that what they do is a turnoff of sorts? I thought that focusing on her inability to pay was the kinder option, but I felt like it's just made it easier for her to turn it around and make me seem like a jerk and guilt trip me. So I sent her what I considered to be a final message, hoping to reiterate gently but firmly that my choice was final. And well, that final message must have really pissed her off, because she blocked both me and my maid of honor on Facebook, like we were the ones bombarding her with messages? Truthfully, I was a little relieved that I didn't have to do it to her. Anyway, after that, she started publicly talking crap about me on Facebook. I know that's nothing I can control, and I don't really care what her friends think of me, but it just makes me mad that I did my best to be kind in this crappy situation, and it has somehow made it even easier for her to make me seem evil. Why have I felt guilty and bothered being nice when she's being so awful and petty? To my own amazement, I kind of wanted to message her something a little bit mean. She's out there spewing awful stuff about me, so why should I protect her feelings anymore? I am overly nice and it's so out of character of me, but I kind of wanted to tell her that it's really crappy to take advantage of everyone you know and to pretend to have autism, narcolepsy, PTSD, and agoraphobia. Because it is. People struggle with that stuff, and to her, it's just a ploy to get attention and money. She's a terrible ex-bridesmaid, a terrible friend, and frankly, a terrible person. I blocked her on all other social media and currently have no further intentions of allowing her in my life. Overall, the sad thing is that if I met her today, I would have no interest in her friendship. Sad face. It just sucks knowing that there used to be a good, fun, sweet person there. Anyway, everyone was very relieved that she wasn't going to be a part of the wedding party. Our day was really great and drama-free because she didn't come at all. She actually refused to come to the wedding unless I allowed her to back in the wedding party. I'm usually too much of a pushover, but I'm glad I held my ground with this. One of my other best friends took her place and was an absolute angel. At first, I was sad to end a friendship over this, but if I'm being honest with myself, the friendship ended years ago. I can't say I've missed the drama and manipulation. Thank you everyone. Initially, I felt like a giant Bridesmaidzilla and guilty. Everyone's kind responses and the things that she ended up doing put me at ease with my decision. Well, OP, I'm gonna count this as a happy and positive update all around for 3 simple reasons. Number 1, your growth. You stood up for yourself. You usually say you're too nice or you're too much of a pushover, but you stood up for yourself, stood your ground, and didn't let her back into the wedding party. Which leads to point number 2, your drama-free wedding because she didn't attend. And then point number 3 is that she's out of your life, so you don't need to deal with this drama anymore. So I'm gonna say, good for you, OP. All the best in the future and take care. Thank you for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Timothy53. my first boss, and how he got the whole team every certification available. When I turned 14 years old, I got my first summer job and had one of the best bosses I'd ever had. I recently found out that unfortunately my mentor and someone I would consider a friend, John, passed away. Although it's been well over 20 years, I still use the lessons learned and the work ethic he passed on to me. Although at times he could be hard, he was more than fair and always did the right thing for those that worked for him. This is the story of John versus the new president. Before I get into the story, I need to give some background and context on John. John was the textbook all-American boy. John had attended a prestigious boarding school somewhere in New England and eventually attended Yale back in the 50s or 60s and was not only a scholar but a three-sport athlete. He played football, boxed, and was a captain of the track and field team. Fast forward to when this story takes place and John was still in phenomenal shape for a late 60s or early 70s man. John opted to move out to the country and start a family to follow his passion, which was teaching at the local high school and coaching high schoolers in various sports. Obviously, he was the high school football coach, taught track and field, was an outstanding shot put athlete, and could run the mile and many other long distances. As a teacher, he had the summers off and became a lifeguard at the local town beach, eventually becoming the captain of the lifeguards. Over time, he developed standards for the town, the county, and state lifeguards to pass. He really transformed what was a ragtag style of lifeguards into a full-fledged official lifeguard corps and training academy, and set the standards for what is still used today. John was eventually hired to run the lifeguards and manage an entire private beach club instead of working for the town beach. One of the biggest challenges of this, since it was a private beach club, was that John now reported to the president of the beach club, who oversaw how things were run. I started working for John as a helper on the beach and then eventually as a lifeguard. And for the first couple of summers, things were great. The president of the beach club took pride in having the best staff and making sure that lifeguards were well paid, and to his credit, safety was the utmost priority. This private beach club certainly catered to the more wealthy clientele who wanted a nicer club instead of going to the public beach. Some of the advantages were the amenities, which were lockers, cabanas, private parking, and a very nice restaurant that served great food and drinks. This was one of the few beach clubs that also had the ability to serve alcoholic beverages. One of the good things John had instituted was that any returning member of the staff from the previous summers automatically got a raise. This ensured that staff returned the next summer, avoiding a lot of retraining and, as you can imagine, growing pains with the new staff. What was even better was that if you returned multiple summers, you still got an additional raise. Most summers, this was $1 or $2. As an example, I started at $7.25 at 14 years old. This was back in the late 90s, and by the time I was in college, I was making almost $15 an hour. Typically, the president of the club serves a term that is a few years, and when his term was up, a new president was ushered in. So, upon taking office, the new president loudly proclaimed that he wanted to ensure that the club had fiscal responsibility and that he would be personally going over the books with a fine-tooth comb. His first order of business was to cut everyone's pay all the way back to minimum wage and fire most of the lifeguards. Now, as noted above, the staff was there for a long time, knowing most of the members and how to run the place. Before the start of the summer, upon learning that their hourly wage would be cut, most senior staff immediately left and were quickly hired elsewhere. The lifeguards were spared at the appeal John made to ensure safety. Although some senior guards left for other beaches and pools, John was able to convince the lifeguards as he would take care of things. On to the malicious compliance. While John agreed to have the staff take the pay cut, he convinced the new president that any lifeguards with additional certifications would get $2 an hour on top of the base minimum wage. The new president obviously didn't consider that any of these lifeguards would put in the effort or if it was feasible to get any certifications in time for the summer season, and he agreed to the plan. As you can imagine, John basically established the process and curriculum for becoming a lifeguard and personally trained and hired most, if not all, the trainers in the town and county. John was also a volunteer fireman and knew all the EMS personnel and, not surprisingly, had taught them in school or hired them as lifeguards in the past. John quickly called in favors from every trainer and certifier across the county who were more than happy to repay all the favors John had done for them in the past. Most waived the training fees and expedited the training sessions for the lifeguards, and they wanted to promote safety for the community. Prior to the start of the Memorial Day weekend and what is effectively the official start of the summer, all of us lifeguards and new staff become certified in pretty much every single possible certification that existed at the time. I mean, I'm talking crazy complete overkill and unnecessary certifications for a regular lifeguard. We got trained as either EMS or EMTs, were retrained in CPR again, life-saving ocean and pool rescue techniques, certified swimming instructor, certified food instructor, certified county pool operator license, and certified sanitary inspector. We even had one guy who wanted to learn how to scuba. Anyway, the lifeguards not only went back to their original wage, but in most cases went well above what the previous wages were. At 18 years old and back in the 90s, I personally went from making $15 an hour to $27 an hour, all due to the certifications and training. It took a month or so for the fallout to happen. While the new president tried to renege on the deal, John was smart enough to have a formal arrangement in place, and there was nothing the new president could do besides bitch about it. He winded up resigning his position to spend more time with his family at the beach. We rarely saw him around that summer, and I think he eventually stopped coming altogether, opting to join another club. John made nice with the new president and explained his philosophy on training and keeping staff. The new president agreed, and some of the senior staff winded up coming back with the promise of their original wage. A few weeks ago, I heard from friends and former colleagues that just at the start of the summer season, John passed away in his sleep at the ripe age of 91. He was still working, although not as much in the past. It was more of an I wanna keep busy type of thing than a need to work. Every morning, he would take out the lifeguard's rowboat and get some exercise in. After all, he was a certified rowing instructor. Rest in peace, John. You were the best. Wow, OP John does sound like an all-rounder, awesome type of person. Thank you for sharing yours and his story with us. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.